Last week, federal agents showed up to investigate 2 LAUSD schools, but administrators refused to give them access.
The district says these agents were part of the Department of Homeland Security's Investigation Bureau, and now Democrats in Congress want answers to why those agents tried to speak with the students. 18 members, including Robert Garcia, Jimmy Gomez, and Ted Lieu, sent a letter to the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, demanding a briefing about the operation. Here's part of that letter. Schools must be safe spaces for the children they serve. The United States Supreme Court has ruled that all students have a right to a public education, no matter their immigration status. If parents and children cannot access schools without fear of deportation or harassment, you deny that right. The incident left teachers, parents, and students shaken, and Superintendent Alberto Cavallo is joining us now in studio. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Good morning.
This is getting a lot of attention. Has this ever happened in the history of LAUSD, including during the first Trump administration?
During the first Trump administration, there was a case of federal entities attempting to have access to someone in a charter school, not within LAUSD. It is my understanding that this is the very first time that federal agents have attempted to have access to students while in school anywhere in the country. So this incident really has no precedent.
So it did sound like we heard about an incident in Chicago, but then that got convoluted, right? So this is
That's
the
correct.
only incident? Yeah.
That incident was actually as a result of an alleged threat made by someone who attended that school against the president.
So very different.
So yes, the U.S. Secret Service usually investigates that.
Homeland Security is saying they had nothing to do with immigration enforcement. I want to read you a quote from the department's response that was given to the media. Officers were at these schools conducting wellness checks on children who arrived unaccompanied at the border. This had nothing to do with immigration enforcement. What do you make of that? And I'm assuming you don't buy it.
I don't, just because of what those same officers conveyed to the principals. They said, yes, that they were there. They were not part of ICE. They were with Homeland Security. But they also conveyed to the principals that they had the authorization from the parents of these children to have access to them and to speak with them. That is a blatant lie. Secondly, it is quite unusual and odd for a wellness check to be done at a school. So the whole story just doesn't come together the way it should. So we reject that. And by the way, this is not the very first time that entities portraying themselves as Homeland Security or other federal agencies actually attempt to take immigration action against children or adults alike.
You've said you're prepared to put your job on the line. I know in Miami you said the same thing about immigration type issues and children in your schools. Are you prepared to potentially lose funding, and are you prepared to potentially face personal investigation?
What I'm prepared to do is anything that requires me doing to protect our kids. As the early part of your segment conveyed to the viewership, students in this country, regardless of immigration status, have a right to a free public education. That is a constitutional guarantee under the Equal Protection Clause. Secondly, there is a law, also a federal law called FERPA, that guarantees the privacy and confidentiality of student and parents' information in our schools. Thirdly, I am morally and professionally compelled to act as a parent would on behalf of these children under in loco parentis. In the absence of the parent, I need to protect children as if I were their parent. On the basis of those three well-established legal parameters, I'm compelled to do everything I can. I hope if there is a repercussion, a consequence, it is applied to me personally, not against our children, on the basis of funding, as we rely on the federal government to the tune of about $1.2 billion. And what a shame it would be if the country withhold our district hostage and apply the consequence to children. Let's think about what kind of children these are. The poorest of the poor, the medically needy, the child with disabilities. Those are the types of funding we get from the federal government. It would be immoral, it would be unthinkable to punish, to apply consequences to children. I welcome the personal consequence to the extent there is one. Yes, I'm willing to put my job on the line to do that which is right. I have a daughter. I want to be able to explain to her years from today the position I took regarding this type of matter.
Do you think this was an intimidation tactic? And what have you learned about the schools that were targeted, or these students who seem to have been targeted?
So number one, the schools that were targeted do reflect a high level of immigrant families, particularly Latino families. Secondly, I do believe that this is an intimidation tactic. It was done, in my opinion, to send shockwaves, to send an element of fear, of intimidation throughout the community, to reach the ultimate goal, I believe, of self-deportation. Fear should not be an element in schools. Schools are places for instruction, for inspiration, for nutrition, for protection, for joy, for fun, not fear. So the federal government certainly should not be instilling fear, particularly amongst the youngest in our school community. We're talking about a first grader, a second grader, a third grader, a fourth grader, and in a different school, a sixth grader. I continue to ask, what interest would Homeland Security have with a first grader? What level of threat does a first grader present to our nation? Never underestimate the power of the immigrant child. And let's remember who the immigrants amongst us are. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Madeleine Albright, Elon Musk himself, Natalie Portman, Albert Einstein, Tesla. There are so many. Let us not ignore the contributions of immigrants from the past and certainly the potential that immigrants bring to our nation. This is something that has no precedent in this nation. And as an immigrant, I would be a hypocrite if I did not speak for, advocate for, and defend other immigrants in this country today. A hypocrite. Particularly, as I've said and the community knows, I am an undocumented immigrant to this country. Came here at the age of 17. I know poverty, I know homelessness, but I also know the power of public education.
Former undocumented immigrant.
Correct. Thank you. Because I have read on social media, if he's undocumented, let's deport him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
I want to ask you also, before we let you go, have the feds been reaching out to your students in the schools or investigating the schools in any other way? Has there been any other activity besides these agents approaching those two schools?
Good question. We have no evidence of any other type of interest or action taken by federal agencies. And I refer to all federal agencies at this point. But look, we prepared for this. We trusted the voices in advance of the election that they would do what they promised they would do, and they are doing it. So there are no surprises. For those who have buyer's remorse, let it be for what it is. Our principals are aware, our teachers are aware, the support staff are aware, and they're well trained. And kudos for people who did the right thing at the right time, despite the intimidation level that they no doubt feared.
Very, very quickly, has the White House reached out to you at all? Have you heard from any of the administration?
I have not, but then again, I'm not surprised. I'm a superintendent, so I do a different thing than the folks at the White House. I respect, by the way, I continue to say, I respect the law, and we are following the federal law that protects our children. We're not breaking the law.
All right. Superintendent, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Now you can get your KCAL news, weather, and live stream all in one place on the CBS News app. Download it free today.